have a bunch of space weather coming in. There's a very large coronal hole currently on the Earth facing side of the sun. We're going to be in that high speed stream in just a couple days. Right now, Earth's magnetic field is super quiet. It's about to become very volatile and noisy. We also have a very significant planetary alignment happening during this time frame involving Earth, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune. There's other planetary alignments as well. We have an Earth, Venus, Uranus alignment, a Venus, Saturn, Neptune alignment, a Mercury, Sun, Jupiter alignment. So all that converging together simultaneously speaks to the possibility of there being enhanced space weather and also enhanced earthquake activity here on Earth. These sort of large coronal holes that we see on the sun are also well linked to high magnitude earthquake activity. In fact, last time we saw this coronal hole on the sun, we experienced a global seismic burst, primarily characterized by a magnitude 7.5, magnitude 7.3, and magnitude 7.4 earthquake sequence that occurred just over the span of about a week in the Southwest Pacific. So we could very well have another global seismic burst coming in, but there is a wild card to all this. In fact, there's two wild cards to all this. The first one here is Mars. We have some really interesting space weather that has been sent off to Mars. It is a critical piece of this planetary alignment. And I think we're going to see some very interesting plasma and or electromagnetic effects unfold as a result of this that could shake things up even more. The second wild card is that we have a comet flying into the solar system for its perihelion on April 19th. This is Comet C2025 R3 PANSTARRS. It'll be exactly in between the sun and the Earth, right around the orbit of Mercury, around the 25th to 26th of April. So just in general, as you can see, there is a lot that's happening in our space environment right now, and that is very likely to translate into real world activities and geologic events unfolding here on Earth in just the next few days. So we're going to cover all that and much more in today's video. Let's jump right into it. Let's start off with our planetary alignment, and we're going to come back to this image here so I can explain this in a little bit more detail and my hypothesis of some of the energetic factors that are unfolding, okay? But this is 100% the alignment that the planets will be in. My hypothesis is a hypothesis. Okay, we see Earth right there, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune. These four very specifically in a nice alignment, basically a perfect line on the 18th, 19th, 20th of April. We're already in this alignment, but it goes exact around the 19th of April and the 20th of April. And we have other alignments too. So we have an Earth, Venus, Uranus alignment. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. That geocentric conjunction comes later on in April. I think it's the 28th of April. We have a Mercury, Sun, Jupiter alignment. Jupiter not imaged here in this graphic, but that is pretty precise around the 17th of April, I believe. And then we also have a Venus, Saturn, Neptune alignment right in this time frame. So a lot of planetary alignments unfolding. And just a teaser as to something I'm going to talk about later, you'll notice that in this alignment here, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, these are the planets in our solar system that all have the same tilt angle approximately. Earth, 23.4 degrees, Mars, 25.2 degrees, Saturn, 26.7 degrees. Neptune, 28.3 degrees. So all the other planets have completely different spin angles. Venus actually spins backwards. She's the only one that does that retrograde spin. All the other planets spin normal direction. But these four planets are the ones that have their tilt angle for their spin axis within 5 degrees of each other. So I think that's really important. We'll talk about that more later. Now, arguably, in some aspect, the most important thing that's occurring coming up is this giant coronal hole. It'll be hitting Earth with its high-speed stream of solar wind. This carries its own magnetic field with it. That is why there is this deficiency in the solar corona, the outermost atmosphere of the sun to begin with. This magnetic field extends deep out into space, effectively vacuums up all the plasma, super high temperature, millions of degrees Kelvin, into this high-speed stream and shoots it out into space. So we are left with a deficiency in plasma. We see that here with this dark spot. There's a lot happening though beyond just this coronal hole high-speed stream. This is a big one. Last time we saw this one specifically As I mentioned, in February, we had that global seismic burst. We've seen this time and time again, where we get big increases in global seismicity as a result of these coronal holes being Earth-facing to geoeffective. So effectively, this quadrant of the sun right there, that's really when these things pop off. That's going to be there very soon. It's wide, meaning that we'll be in that high-speed stream for a while. It's cutting through the solar equator, meaning it will hit Earth with its high-speed stream. As a default, this is going to basically cause there to be a shock wave to hit Earth. This is a high-density wall plasma traveling at the front of this high-speed stream, and then we'll get that compression of the magnetic field as a result of the high-speed solar wind, and then that's going to overall trigger geomagnetic volatility on the planet. So I'd say there's probably a G2 geomagnetic storm coming in as a result of this. We could even see G3 conditions because we are in April and this is when the Russell-McFerrin effect is in play, but I'd skew a little bit more towards G2. The fact though that we have this planetary alignment though is kind of like a +1 factor for all this, so keep that in mind. You'll see more happening here though. You'll notice something really interesting happen at the end, but there's a lot to cover. You'll see some plasma filaments blasting off around the sun. There's been a lot of activity. We've had 2 blasts off to Mars in the past couple days. We'll talk about that next. You'll see this sunspot group right here starting to get very active. And so while it's not showing up as clear spikes in the X-ray flux at this moment in time, it is showing a lot of activity, just like you see before you get a big solar flare and then coronal mass ejection, the whole explosion shebang, there we go. So I would not be surprised if we get a pretty significant solar flare from the sunspot group in the next few days, and it could happen during that Earth direct zone right here when this is in the geoeffective position. That's like that perfect 1-2 punch, and that could very well launch out a significant coronal mass ejection following up behind this high-speed stream to cause there to be even more geomagnetic volatility on our planet, charge up the global electric circuit, all this stuff. You will see here a plasma filament launch off from the sun. It shows up better in different views, but you will see it launch off, and then you'll see this canyon of fire. See that movement, that flow? That is showing that that also launched off. That doesn't appear to be super Earth direct, but maybe we get hit just a little bit by that. And it also demonstrates something really brilliantly, which is that these flux ropes, these magnetic tubes that exist on the sun, these filaments, right? They are a condensation of plasma. There's actually a elemental differentiation that occurs within them based off of the ionization potential of these different elements. So they cluster in these shells in these filaments. That's the theoretical framework that we have. That's the best that I've at least heard of. When these launch off, they go off into space, but then you'll see we get this coronal hole to expand afterwards because these flux ropes and these tubes can act as ion pumps. So it starts to actually vacuum material up from the corona, and as a result, we get this coronal hole to expand at the last second there as a result of that plasma filament blasting off into space. Watch that again very closely. We see that coronal hole right there beautifully start to expand and move around the surface of the sun. So this thing is still growing at this moment in time. We have just a weak coronal hole here, but very large in the southern hemisphere. So we have just a lot of the Earth-facing side of the sun right now dominated by coronal holes, which are well linked to high magnitude earthquake activity, global seismic bursts, and more.